In part 2 of the series on building websites with Gridsome and WordPress, we're going to create a blog index page to list out our posts. We're going to create a custom post template to generate the pages for our posts, and we're going to update the nav bar to display our blog index so we can easily get access to our pages. So I'm going to go back into our project here, and inside of pages, I'm going to create a new file. We're going to say blog.vue. Now, it's interesting that Gridsome and Gatsby, for what it's worth, are smart enough to know that when it detects a normal, like a top-level page inside of here, when it generates its pages, it knows that it'll be whatever the URL is and then /blog. If you created a folder underneath that, it's kind of smart enough to know that the nested folders are going to be like subpaths within your URL. So we could just create a blog.vue, and we can confidently know that once the site is rebuilt, it's going to get a blog page. So we're going to build this thing out. This one's going to take a little while. So I'm going to just spit out its built-in, built it as part of the plugin. It's just a snippet that gets dropped in there. It was awkwardly really hard to say for some reason. Okay, so layout is a special, it's a globally registered Vue component that we can use we're going to use it in pretty much every page that we build. That includes like the logo, the nav bar, and also some spacing and options too. So inside of here, we're not going to get super fancy. Let's say H1. We're gonna basically copy. You know what? Let's copy and paste this from over here. So we can take that and put this guy here inside of layout, because this is exactly what we're going to use. So again, we have the title, we have a list, and then for each node inside of the data that we're pulling, we're going to spit out the title. But instead of, we're going to change this and tweak this a little bit. I'm going to copy my query from the previous page again, and actually we're going to delete this out of here because we don't need this here anymore. Delete out our static query because we're gonna separate this thing from the home page altogether. So underneath template, paste in our query again. We don't really need to change or tweak this because this is actually I lied. We will. We're also going to need to pull the slug. And in WordPress terms, the slug is basically everything that comes after the main domain. So if you've seen when we were in here earlier and we set up our pretty permalinks, let's see here. How do we go back? So inside of permalinks, this is an example of a slug. So it's everything that comes after localhost 8000, which is our main domain. Okay. So we've got the ID, title, and slug, and the reason we need the slug is because we're actually going to make a link out of our node.title. We're not going to use a normal anchor tag or an A tag because Gridsome has a built-in way of kind of telling itself that this link is internal, and it kind of optimizes the performance for it. So we're actually going to use a G-link here. And we're going to move the node.title inside of here. And then instead of using the href tag like we normally would in an anchor, we're going to put :2 and then open this guy up. And then we will say node. Actually, I don't think we need the brackets there. We'll just do node.slug. So this should be the actual path that's going to be generated from when we spit out our pages. So when we save this, I don't even know if we need to kill that. We're going to kill it and rebuild it. This should get us actually there's a little bit more we need to add. Inside of our script tag, we need to export a meta info, and then we just basically all we're doing is setting the name of the pages. Title, blog. The meta info field inside of the script is actually where you would put things like your meta tags, any linked CSS, the title, SEO information, stuff like that. We're only interested really in the title right now, so this should be sufficient. So let's save that, and let's run this guy again. Head back into our website. Let's refresh this. Now we can see the post section on our main page is gone. But if I go to blog, you can see now I have a post page that has these two guys that are linked up to what will be the post page. Or we have a blog index that is going to end up being linked up to some templates we're going to use to generate post pages. Okay, so let's head back into our code and let's set up that template. So underneath templates, there's a section here that's already created. Let's create a new file and say this post.vue. And let's see, we're going to make this one pretty simple. I'm going to use my basic template here. We're going to add the layout again. And then we're going to add an H1 tag. And we'll say this will be, actually, you know what? I'm going to pause here. Let's back this off. So I'm not going to say that we're going to delete this. I forgot there is one thing we're going to need to do here first. No, I lied. I undid myself for absolutely no reason. Post.view. Let's get this guy back going. So we got a layout, and we have an H1 tag. And we're going to set VHTML to context.title. Context is a special kind of object inside of Gridsome that we're going to use to basically, when Gridsome is generating its pages, it uses this context object in order to pass information from the generator into the template itself. So that's what we're going to use here. And the reason I'm putting this inside of VHTML and not just kind of doing something like, let's see, context.title. The reason I'm using VHTML and not using something like this is because some characters get URL encoded and they don't look the right way inside of titles itself. Like ampersands is a really good example of that. Whereas if you use VHTML, Vue is smart enough to say like, hey, everything inside of here needs to be URL decoded, so it'll do that all for us automatically. And then we're actually going to use the same thing with our content. So VHTML equals context.content, and let's close that tag off. And content is the field that's used by WordPress to actually spit out the HTML that's going to be put into the kind of the body of the page, right? So let's save here. I'm going to add a meta info here as well. And let's see, we are going to actually set this to a function. And the reason we want to set it to a function is because we're going to use the title that comes in from the context in order to set this. And you can only access the context if you're using this as a function. If you use it as an object, it doesn't work. So it's, we're going to return title, and then we'll say context.title like so. Actually, we need to do this.context.title. All right, save that guy. So now we have our basic template set up for, generating our page. So let's go ahead and set up the script that is going to generate the pages themselves, and that's going to be done inside of gridsome.server. We're going to get rid of all of the default stuff that's inside of here because we need to tweak some things a little bit. So let's see, API.createPages. CreatePage is the function of this API that's sent in, it's just kind of an embedded part of Gridsome. CreatePages is what is going to be used to generate the pages based off of the data. This will be run every time the site is built. And you can add as many of these in here as you want, and it'll run every single one of them. This is going to be an async function. So we're going to pass in GraphQL, and we're going to pass in CreatePage from, did I got that right? Yeah, it looks right. All right, cool. So those are the two objects that we're going to pull out of what's passed into this by default. Let's set up our query. So const query equals, and we're going to set this to posts. We're basically going to do the same thing we did before, edges, node, and then we're going to need the ID. We're going to need we're going to need a title. We're going to need the slug, and we're going to need the content. So we're going to pass in these three different fields into our page templates as they're created. All right, so now that the query is defined, let's execute the query. So we'll say const query results equals await GraphQL, and we're going to pass in our query. So we're executing our query here. Now all of our data is going to be inside of the query results. Let posts equals, I think it's query results. This one's a little bit long, so I keep looking over to my notes to reference them. I apologize. So query results.data.post.edges, and then we're going to kind of do the same thing we did earlier, where we're going to pull out. I like it in posts. I don't want to set it as nodes. I don't want to pull it out like we did earlier because I want to reference it as posts. So we'll say edge. We're going to pass in the edge itself. We're going to return edge.node. Flip that. I got that reversed. Okay, so we have our posts. All right, so now for each of our posts, so post.forEach, and we'll pass in posts into a function inside of here. we're going to create page. So we're using the function, we're using this guy up here that was passed into here. And we will create the page. We're going to pass in another object. Path is what Gridsome is going to use to kind of generate the end path. So we're pretty much going to use blog / the slug itself. So let's see here. We will do / blog, and then let's pass in post.slug. And then we also need the component, which the component is used to reference that template we just created. So we will pass that in as .src templates post.view. And then the last thing, this is where that context comes into play. So for the context, we need to pass in the title, and we'll set that to post.title. And we need to pass in the content. No, not posts. We need to rename this post. Post.title, post.content. And then as long as we did everything right, we have set ourselves up to grab the data from WordPress, generate all the post pages, and then if our blog is set up the right way using those slugs, we should be able to click on those pages and then they'll link back to our posts. If I said that right. All right, so now that our guy is all built back up, let's go back into our website and let's refresh this page. Here's our blog page. Let's click on Hello from WordPress. And we got a not found. Oh, I need to fix, I have the actual link set up incorrectly. So as you can see here, I have it set to node slug. That's not right. We actually want to add blog to the beginning of that. And we'll then pass in node slug like this. That's a pretty simple error to fix. And we want to change that to, there you go. All right, so now we got all that set up right. Save that. This is not something, we're not pulling any more data. Now if we click on that, we get hello from WordPress. And I don't get the content. Oh, hello from WordPress, I didn't create content, that's right. So hello world, there we go. So we got hello world, welcome to WordPress, this is your first post, etc., etc. All right, so this is all working just as expected. Cool, we're good to go. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to update the layout, and this is where I was saying that layout is kind of a globally registered Vue component, so we can use that anywhere. Let's head back into, let's see here. Let's go back to VS Code, and we'll go to layouts and default.view, and we're just going to duplicate one of these guys here. Let's see, I guess I can't bring this over anymore. Let's close that guy out altogether. So in my IDE, I have Control-D set up to do this. So we're going to change this to blog, and we're going to change this to blog. Save that guy. Now let's go back into here. Let's head home, and now we can see we have blog here. And no matter where I click on my website, I always have that because we updated the header here. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share it out to your friends. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel for new videos every week. If you're looking for help on an issue or just want to collaborate with other developers, be sure to join my Discord by clicking the fullstack.chat link in the description below, or just enter it into your browser to join. Thank you so much and have a great day.